That's good.
Well, thank you, guys. Have a great day. Thank
No,
you for
you're
the
good to
time.
get this out. That's fine. This one's on right now.
I think there's usually another table.
Yeah, You're good to go.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order at 6:49. Let's stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call starting with Shelley.
Shelley.
Victor Robinson. Robert Carr.
Benny Cannavella.
Steve Kozer.
And
Mike Kusa.
any amendments to the agenda? Okay, I'd like to have us take a moment of silence. On Thursday, it will be 11 years when the tragedy. We are very close, and many of us have connections, so I'd just like us to take a moment to remember the people involved in that, and the syndicate. Thank you all very much for that. Approval of minutes.
So I move that we accept the regular minutes for the regular Board of Ed meeting from November 14th as written.
Second. Steve? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? And Bobby and Sue, you would abstain because you weren't.
Yeah, we were the.
Yeah. Okay, November 20th.
And I hereby move that we accept the minutes from the November 28th Board of Ed special meeting as written.
Second. Who's second?
Nobody.
Second.
Mike, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Yes.
Yes.
You were there again.
Oh, I was?
Yeah.
Oh,
I do,
yes,
I actually.
yeah. Oh, that was the meeting, but the football game,
Yeah.
that was in my car.
Yeah.
Okay, then I
You
passed.
were freezing that night, remember?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Audience of citizens, would anyone like to speak to me? No? Okay. Board correspondence, you haven't got anything?
Nope.
Okay. Moving right along, HVAC, Cook Farms and Goes. Just before we get into this, discussion item, we met with Mr. Temple, Mr. Kuza and myself, Dr. Miller and Bob Sly. It was a very positive conversation. So, we hope to continue to have those ongoing conversations, monthly at least to, improve our relationships. So we can get into that.
So I'm happy to announce that at the Board of Select meeting that took place last Wednesday night, the Board of Selectmen approved our application for Quaker Farms as well. So both schools, the cafeteria and gym at Toledo Elementary School and the entire building of Quaker Farms are approved for us to apply to the state for HVAC grants. So we're using the same consultant that we used for this school project that we got funded for to do the applications for these other two projects. The next step that we need is for the Board of Education to approve the ed specs that have been written by our consultant that are attached to the agenda for this evening. There are two motions that need to be approved and then minutes. Now, we might need to have a special meeting to approve these minutes for her to then submit the minutes this month.
Okay,
I'm finding that out from her. And then Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance don't need to meet at a joint meeting and individually with minutes on their part showing that there'll be town funding for the project. But our board here, you've already authorized us to apply for the grants. And your next step is to approve the S specs that have been written for these two projects.
I understand that the request for the joint meeting was sent yesterday.
Okay.
So hopefully that will take place. So, did you have a chance to look at the documents that were attached. Anybody have any questions on the ed specs that were attached? Mike, you good? Okay. Do you want to do a motion?
Yeah, I agree with that. Motion to approve the educational specifications dated December 2023, prepared for the HVAC indoor air quality improvement state grant application as related to the cafeteria and gymnasium improvements. That's it goes. Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? No?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Like you said, anything.
No, but all in favor?
Aye.
Abstain? Opposed? I'll get it.
Medical.
All in favor, motion carries.
Okay, and motion to approve the educational specifications dated December 2023, prepared for the HVAC indoor air quality improvement state grant application for Quaker Farms.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
Thank you, our students and staff. Thank you greatly, and hopefully we'll get this approved by the state. Yes,
So it has to be, the grant has to be applied for by December 31st.
Yes.
Where's the action one?
so, and the town has granted us the application.
Also, they,
They give you, yeah, as a school district, we need to apply.
Okay.
Yes.
and we're using their, this town grant writer.
No, actually, we're paying a consultant to write it, not the town grant writer, the same consultant that wrote the grant for this project here, and it's actually the same consultant that did the ed specs and managed the project for the middle school.
So she has a lot of the information
Yeah.
already, so.
And a lot of the contacts with the state.
So, and she was successful, so that was. Okay.
Yeah.
Next topic is the MOU request teacher coverage at Quaker Farms and goes.
So as most of you are aware of it, Bobby and Siri, new to the board. What we did the last couple of years coming out of COVID is that we had an MOU for the middle school and the high school teachers. When they don't have a class, and we need a substitute, which we're desperately shy of right now. We pay the teachers to cover classes, but by contract, we're obligated to give them a duty-free period. So they're giving up their prep period in order to sub. So we've had an MOU on the books for the last couple of years, and we got it written into the new teacher contract starting next year to pay the middle school and high school teachers during those preps. We haven't had anything in place at the elementary school level because their amount of time that they have free is very different than a middle school and high school teacher, just the way that they're scheduled. It's become more complicated this year because we've had so few subs this year, which is why the next agenda we'll bring forward with to the board. The teachers and specialists have been subbing for other teachers this year, more so than they have in the past. And they've asked to be compensated in the same way that the middle school and high school teachers are. So I'm asking the board to grant the chair to sign an MOU that will be negotiated between the Board of Education and the Education Association to draft a policy and a procedure to pay the elementary school teachers retroactive to the beginning of the year and then effective from now to the end of the school year, so that when they do cover these classes, we honor the time that they're doing so, we pay them accordingly. The rate of pay will be consistent we have with the middle school high school, but it won't be necessarily the same pay because the amount of time that they're covering is not going to be the same blocks of time that the middle school and high school MOU covers for that. The other piece to this is, and we'll talk about this in a few minutes, is when teachers are not covering classes, we're pulling tutors and we're pulling our coaches and interventionists and students in special education, students in SRBI are missing their services. So we can entice more teachers to cover classes that will help students downstream that are losing services that should be getting. So that's the request of the board tonight.
Anybody have any questions?
I do, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Was this part of the bargaining agreement that with the teachers union?
It was part of the negotiation for the secondary. The elementary school conversation was not part of it. That conversation came to me well after negotiations had begun. It was too late for it to be entered into any form of collective bargaining at that point. So what will happen is if this works, I would see for the next couple of years us doing an annual MOU for this because MOU is a one-year basis. And then it would be something that we work into the contract, at the next go around. Good question.
Any other questions? Okay.
All right, yep. Request for motion to allow the Board of Ed Chair to develop and sign an MOU for payment of Quaker Farm Schools and Greater Elementary School teachers while covering classes.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Oh,
Aye.
wait a minute, hold on.
Oh, sorry. In the elementary level, so are we talking like when they go to, the kids go to a special, is that when a teacher is free to sub? Cause,
Yes.
so they're only subbing for like a short
A
period.
very short period of time, yes.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
Thank you for that.
And sub-pay rate.
So Oxford, like every other district in the state of Connecticut, has faced a teacher shortage and faced a substitute teacher shortage. It's something that we've been addressing for the last few years coming out of COVID. We've tried various different incentives. We tried a incentive where if you sub for 45 days and then 90 days and so forth, if you stay loyal to us, we're going to increase your pay incrementally. Regardless of what we've tried, we haven't necessarily had positive results in getting more subs to work for us. At the end of the day, our rate of pay that we're paying subs is lower than some of the other surrounding school districts in this area. And if it's a sub can go next door 5 minutes down the road and make more than they make here, they're going to do so. So our hope is to raise the rate of pay to motivate people to come and sub here. It's something that we've brought forward to the board a couple times in the last couple of years. I'm bringing it again to you now. On behalf of our teachers, I'm really encouraging you to approve tonight the rate of pay increase so that we can try and attract more people to come in sub, because it has a negative impact on education. When we don't have the adults to go into classrooms, we're pulling teachers, we're combining classrooms, we're pulling interventionists, we're pulling tutors. Across the entire spectrum, students are not getting the services and education that they need. So if we can try to attract more people because we increase the rate of pay, the hope is that more people want to come and work here. So Howard did collect a lot of data statewide. In the document attached to this agenda item in the finance packet in under committees, he actually showed a chart of comparing and contrasting all the sub pay across the entire region across the state. And we're in the lower end of that.
Yeah, again, just so everyone's aware, right, currently, I don't know if you're all aware now, just to make sure you're all aware that the, for non-certified, it's $90 a day, it's $100 a day for certified. Even if you do the math, where they 7.25 hours, they're not even making minimum wage. And so that's part of the deal. And then if you look around the areas, again, look at data that's there, we're significantly below the average, which for the DERG, which is the grouping that we're in for schools, so the average is $115 a day. And so, and it ranges between 150 for some and down to 120, and then we're at the 100. So again, it's going to attract the substitutes that we need. And again, you'll see in one of the, I think it's one of the documents that's in the finance package. Last year, between December and November of this year, there was 2,081 absences needed. And we only filled 932 of those, 45%. So 55% of the absences that are occurring with teachers are not being filled because we can't attract substitutes to the district. That's why we're coming to you to ask for an increase in the daily rate.
And the increase in the daily rate would then take up for those that are hired for permanent building subs. And if they're a long-term sub filling for teacher, so obviously we want to increase the rate, the base pay for daily subs, and then that increases on the other. Yeah, that.
So I have a question. In the finance report, you had two proposals. One was to do the building subs, and then one was to raise the rate. Are we looking for one or the other? Or are we looking for, or how did that come out with finance?
We would like to increase the rate of pay for the daily subs.
Okay,
And then that pushes up the rate of pay for the other permanent building subs, and then the long-term subs.
okay, because there's two separate proposals. I just wanted to be sure what we were actually Maybe I misunderstood.
The daily, the building stuff, are we staffed or not staffed?
We have, two of the schools, we've got a permanent building sub in. But even when we have a permanent building sub, it just covers one person.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Right, and then we need to attract more than just that.
Agreed.
Are we on normal? It seems like a lot of subs. Are there reasons why there's needed for so many subs all the time? Where are the teachers?
When you take a look at the average rate of absence that we have, teachers get 15 new sick days a year. They've got 5 personal days that they're entitled per year. And they've got, in some cases, long-term illnesses, some cases maternity leave. Sometimes we have a short-term leave of absence. And when you put it all together, on average, we have anywhere from 20 to 40 teachers out across the district any given day.
25 to
20 to 40 teachers.
25 to 40 teachers a day?
Possibly, yeah.
How many teachers do we have?
We have 165 teachers, so across the entire district. You know, typically, if you take a look at Mondays and Fridays, those typically are, more people are out across the entire district. That's just the way that in most districts are. We do very few professional learning and meetings where teachers are pulled out of the school day. Typically, it's sick, and some form of short or long-term leave of absence.
I mean, I remember, this isn't new, I remember 4 years ago, we were talking about missing subs when teachers are out, and we toyed with the idea of raising.
We did.
We didn't raise it, we said, go find alternate means, we kind of messed around for a few years, but I mean, we experimented other things. This is the last piece of experiment with, and I spoke to 2 people who used to sub here, and they said, you bring it up to some of the other towns, I'll consider coming back.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a competitive disadvantage, for sure.
And even in some of those iterations, the board had tasked me to take a look at substitute companies. And to research that, we looked at several options out there. And they couldn't even guarantee that they would be able to fill the rates. They raise the rates, but they keep part of it. And that's
Kelly, right?
Kelly,
Yeah.
yeah.
During that process that Steve was talking about, I think what's under administration, we agreed, I think up until that point in time, in order to have an absence, you had to submit something to get the absenteeism. You just couldn't take the day off, and we said, you're professionals and you're on your honor, you need the time off. We're not gonna go through that procedure to show that we have confidence and we're one-on-one. So that probably goes back 4 years ago, maybe less. Since we've done that, do you have any data that shows that we're being taken advantage here? Because they don't have to submit anything, they just go.
Well, that's
Long
not.
weekend.
Teachers, every staff member have to put in for personal days, and personal days are supposed to by contract put in up to 24 hours in advance, so they actually have to submit it. It gets approved by their building administrator, department chair, and then it gets approved by me. So there's a layer of approvals for personal days. They have to put in the reason why they're putting in a personal day. Unless there's an emergency taking place, if something unexpected happened at 6:30 in the morning, they could still put in at last minute, could be an emergency. Sick days are not required unless it's a long-term absence. So if I wake up, I'm sick that day, I'm gonna put in the system and I'm not sick. That does not require approval. And then obviously there's bereavement and those sort of things. So personal days do get approved, and then sick days are put in. And you are right that we did change the criteria for personal days from a number of different categories. And we did this for most of the bargaining in it. So we made it more of a lump. We're honoring the professionalism of our staff. And if you say that you need to be out for X reason, if it falls within the categories we're telling you that you are, all you need to tell us is that you need to be out during that day, and we're honor that as a professional, that you're gonna be out during that day.
And the other thing that we had requested is that sick days wouldn't be Friday or extensions of long holidays. And I think you said that was sometimes that happens. That was part of it wasn't a written agreement, but that was part of the professionalism between us and them.
Right.
It doesn't seem like it's happening.
Well, we did encourage, and we do talk to these various associations about personal days on Mondays and Fridays. But the exceptions are graduations and stuff like that in May and June. So typically there are some exemptions that do allow that. Sick days can be taken Monday through Friday regardless. And there is no exemptions in the contracts that prohibit a personal day from being taking place on a Monday or Friday. It just so happens that a lot of people do get sick and they do things that come up that interfere with Mondays and Fridays. I don't think that we have a staff that's taking an advantage of the situation, just taking long weekends.
But you could easily check, if you go back 4 years and you see what the rate is versus the rate since we were made a gentleman's agreement that that wouldn't happen. It would show up like a big red flag that we're being taken
We
advantage
can
of.
still continue looking at that data.
So we, in the new contract, Article 7, there is a language change that says that while the right to request such documentation may be implied, the parties have agreed new language that allows the administration to require teachers to produce medical verification to support the use of sick leave over 5 consecutive workdays, or where abuse of sick leave is reasonably suspected based upon a teacher's pattern of sick leave usage and upon the basis of objective information that has come to the attention of the superintendent. This language should assist the administration in significantly policing sick leave abusers. So that was the language change in the new contract that will take place in July. So,
And we have the means, obviously, with computers and all that kind of stuff to track that. So we can
Oh, yeah.
see a violator when it's happening.
Right, since I've been here since January 2020, we've used the same system, Frontline. Where all the absences go into that system and it's all recorded, all the data is there. At any given moment, I can view the absences for that day. Once again, the approver's all there. I can take a look at the logs of who approved what. I can take a look at the history of any particular person over time. And I can look at the attendance rate. So all the data is there.
okay, so let's move on this issue. Is there any other questions regarding the rate of pay?
Steve can go.
No, I'm just looking at the sheet, the recommendation is,
125.
what is it?
I think it's 125, that's what I said.
135.
135?
That's the permanent, right?
That's for the dailies.
No, that's for the daily.
Daily,
Yeah,
Oh,
certified.
Daily, sorry, I'm reading.
135.
Yeah, I got that one.
Mike? Let's let Mike go and then Mike, go ahead.
I just want to point out that we don't just want to be competitive. We want to almost create a monopoly where we get the best subs in the district. We get the best subs in the area that we're pulling in, and we're doing things that other districts are not willing to do, allowing us to be picky, allowing us to turn away subs. Whereas right now we barely have that luxury. We really don't. We take whatever we can get because we have to fill these holes. And if we can make this rate change, it allows us to be more than competitive. It allows us to kind of dictate the sub pool and make us the primary place for subs in this area.
Bobby?
He covered most of what I wanted to talk about. The other question I have is, where does the 135 put us relative to the other schools in the area?
Under.
I think towards the top, except for region 15, right?
Exactly, region 15 is 150, everyone else is like, Seymour is 115. Naugatuck's, or I'm sorry, Ansoni's 125, Naugatuck's 115, region 16 is 120, Monroe is 150.
So do you think this is enough to move the needle?
I think that it will move the needle for those that work in Oxford and South and East and West of us. And somebody's living up in the Southbury Middlebury, they'll continue subbing there. But I think it will attract some people that are working in other towns here in the surrounding area.
Are you gonna be able to advertise this raise?
We are, we'll put it in
Okay.
social media, we'll put it on Indeed, we'll promote it out there.
Okay.
You know?
No, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was just
gonna say, I'm pretty sure, I'll have to check in with my son from last year, but I think Shelton pays 150 for building subs. I'll double check that.
We have data, we did a survey of all the districts in the state, not every district gave us their data. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I do have Shelton.
Yeah, you said-
And Shelton does have building sub 150. But they also have for their that's their permanent building sub. For their dailies, they only pay, according to what I have the data, so they only pay 75. So I
Yeah.
hope they work less hours too.
I was just looking at our, you know, the permanent building subs, 135 versus their 150 and Southbury's 150. I mean, you know, if we're gonna try to hire people, you know, to get them for the year. But I know it's also a, you know, budgetary concern as well, but.
No, you can,
However, based on the analysis sheet, right, we're saying, again, we're forecasting absences.
Correct.
It's a forecast, it's a plan. We're saying there's a difference of 17,000 potentially. Is that what I'm reading? I know we went through it in finance meeting, but it's been a while.
Right, yeah, so, so the current cost, between the current costs, it's additional 17,000, but that's again, the 5 permanent buildings, there's a lot of moving pieces here.
Right.
Could you just point that out for everybody else on the,
Uh-huh.
where are we looking on the spreadsheet?
The attachment,
It's on the right-hand side and the
On the
bottom
right hand
corner.
side at the bottom, yes.
Okay,
Okay, so,
thank you.
so if we're saying if we covered the absences that we covered in the prior year. And we covered them at the current cost of the total cost for substitutes under current methodology is $133,000. If we just hired 5 permanent, right, it's an additional $17,000 for the balance of the year. That, again, this is talking about the balance of the year. We're already 6 months into the year, right? So it's
Right.
it's not the full cost. If you had 5 permanent building subs at, sorry, 6 permanent building subs, I just did, because I'm doing the budget as well as I'm working on this for next year. If you had 6 permanent building subs at $135, if you put them in there, it's $135,800 per year. Right, for just those 6, right? That's not covering, but they're covering a lot of these absences. So now you're gonna have daily subs on top of that. So if you add the daily subs into that at $135, it's like another $85,000. So now it's gonna be $230,000 by adding those 2 numbers together. And right now, I believe it's around 200,000, it's like 190,000 total is what you have in the budget. So it's gonna be like 35 to 40,000 for an entire year. More than what you're budgeting right now.
Right.
And that's what a full year will look like in a budget. You'll see that when we get to the budget.
And right now we're at partial year.
Yeah, we're at a partial year, yeah. So the partial year, if we do it in absences, what roll out the way they rolled out last year. Again, there's a lot of variables here, so I can't predict it with any reasonability, but we have to use something. And it's about another 17,000 that will be added to this year's budget if we go to this number.
So you're looking to add 6 permanent subs in each school?
That would, no,
Yeah,
not
not
each
every
school,
step.
Oh,
across all.
across all
Across
schools,
we have,
and
Right
then
now
you'll
we-
have daily subs on top of that.
To
Yes,
backfill,
correct.
this was addition to.
Yeah. Yeah, we had wanted to add interns this year, where that was the direction we had gone, and we were not able to get universities to have candidates. That's the problem with that. There's not a stream of people going into education right now. So the school, college and universities in the area just didn't have interns to give us in that. So it looks like we're heading back towards the staffing for the building stuff.
and I don't know if everybody saw the finance attachment, but Howard did a really good comparable analysis. I mean, he picked up how many,
You're talking about the
30 districts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, that's
It's in the finance.
pretty thorough.
It's all the districts.
Right, there's one district up in the northern part of the state, that's paying out of the complete range of what everybody else is.
Yeah, that's an outlier.
Yeah, a huge outlier.
So I mean, I think it's just the question of we go with 125 or is there 135?
Right.
So I have a question and then a follow-up. So does the 135 get us where we want to be?
We won't know that until we advertise, we start recruiting people. We might find out we're still in the same boat 12 months from now, or you could find that we are able to attract a lot of people and it solves our need.
Can I just give you, I'm just gonna
Go ahead.
just to give you an idea from my prior district where I came from, North Haven, right? Very similar district and affluence and everything. They're one level down in the DRG. But at the end of the day, the idea was we went to 140 there and we did it for permanent building subs. Because that's what we thought they needed. And what ended up happening is we had a mass of people come in. And so the principals were able to actually pick and choose who they wanted to be those permanent building subs. And one of the some of the benefits we found, and this, again, this is not the dailies, we had a backfill with dailies, but at the end of the day, one of the things they were telling me about that is that they become part of the community, right? The principals learn who they are, the students learn who they are, they know them, they're familiar faces every day, they're there in the building every day. And what happens is you're also building bench strength, because if you not lose, but if a teacher retires, teacher leaves. there's someone that can step right in and fill in that position. You don't have to go looking for someone, and you know this person, right? So there's a lot of benefits to doing this, and there's a lot of benefits to actually upping the price of this. It's an investment, right, into the future of your staff, and that's the way we looked at it there, and it was successful. And actually, we went out and they have 2 more schools, 2 more elementary schools than Oxford has, and we actually did 14 total permanent building subs in those schools. So it was a good investment, I thought, from that perspective.
But you saw the interest. There was a
Oh,
direct correlation.
sure, yeah, they had people to choose from. There was
Yeah.
more applicants than they had positions.
Just one more thing. I agree with, we need to pay to get more people in here, but I also agree with Victor. You know, if there's somebody that's skirting the system or, you know, abusing the system, then we need to keep an eye on that.
And we do that.
Yeah.
And we do, we have those conversations, and in some cases, we're able to help that person exit the district. We had that, not necessarily with the teacher, but with another role, in the past.
Okay.
But we do actively monitor that. But I will say, as I said before, the bulk of our staff are responsible and acting as true professionals.
Mhm.
And I'm not necessarily seeing our professional staff abusing their rights and privileges that are contractually up. We owe them from a second person perspective.
Anybody else? So the motion would be to increase the sub rate to 135.
Second.
That's just for permanent building.
No,
Also,
Also the 135.
and all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, report of the superintendent?
So first, I'd like to congratulate our high school drama students. They had their fall play last weekend, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. They performed The Nerd. And they did a phenomenal job with a lot of great talented students, anywhere from those that are on the stage, those that are working the stage and the lighting and the costumes, makeup, across the board. We have a very talented group of students, and a number of parents also contributed to provide the supports that they needed, and great mentors from our school. So I was very pleased with the performance and looking forward to the spring musical where they're performing Little Mermaid. And they're even planning for a matinee on that weekend and lunch for kids with the cat. It should be all around a really good experience later in the spring, so stay tuned for that. Staying with the arts, the instrumental winter concert took place last Tuesday night in the library. The students did a wonderful job performing, and then following that was the Tri-M Music Society induction, where approximately a dozen students, juniors and seniors, were inducted into the Music Honor Society. So that was a very nice ceremony that they had. And moving away from drama, actually, let me stay with that for a second. Also this weekend, as part of the Festival of Trees, the Great Oak Choir and the high school concert chamber choir and Voices of Oxford all performed. They performed individually and they also performed all together, which is really cool to see students that are from elementary school and high school performing together. And there's a great audience, and I love the fact that we do it as part of the Festival of Trees, because I think it draws people from the festival into the concert, it draws people from the concert to the festival. So it's really cool to see all together. Something that's been in the news a lot over the last several months deals with kindergarten and the new state law that went into effect for students deemed to be 5 years old by September for them to enroll in kindergarten. The State Department of Education has come out saying that every district is allowed or required to have their own waiver and assessment process. It is not a uniform consistency across the state of Connecticut. Right now, we're grappling with that as to what that assessment would look like, what that waiver would look like. We're still having those discussions, what that's going to be, that has not been decided yet. We are planning to send in a letter out to families shortly, either before break or right after break, just explaining where we are in the process so that they know what's coming. We updated the HVAC grant process. We did meet for the planning project for this building here. Since there were changes, obviously, to where classes were in this building, and primarily because we're now in classrooms as office space here, this side of the building is also getting the HVAC project. So Herman and Bob Sy from the building committee, Mike D'Agostino is their chief operations officer, myself, Peter Nelson, who's the lead custodian for this building, and I met with the two engineers that are managing the project just before the Thanksgiving break. And in terms of designing, and we walked them through this area and the few new spaces that are taking place in the school. They are redesigning some elements of the project based upon the changes to the building. It has to go through several layers of approval on their end in order to get it all approved, and Eversource is part of that since they're doing part of that funding. They anticipate being in the building, starting the work beginning of January if everything goes smoothly. I requested that they start 2 wings that are classroom wings before they do anything. So we're gonna do classroom space in the winter and then classroom space in the spring. And then it'll be a lot of spaces during the summertime. Once again, the work is being done after school and evenings. They're anticipating it will probably be done between 12 and 1, 2 o'clock in the mornings when they pack up and they leave the building. Unless there is a extended week where they need to come into the week, it's pretty much going to be Monday through Friday after hours when they do the work. They know that when they come down to this part of the building, we're working here, they're gonna have to kind of adjust how they're working because we are still here. And they'll have greater access to the building during the summertime, obviously, when the kids are not in session. But the project is planned out to have the least impact or no impact to kids and teachers in the school while the work is taking place while the school year is taking effect. We're having a lot of success with our smaller bus, the bus they purchased almost a year and a half ago. It took us a while to get it permitted and got a driver, but we finally have a system in place and we're able to use it for those runs that we had difficulty doing last year, especially middle school athletics, both traditional athletics and middle school unified sports. Where in the past last year, a lot of parents had to drive their kids or had to cancel games. And now we're able to get those kids to the events where they need to go for the most part. And we're also using for some smaller activities. For example, we're moving the high school choir to the senior center in town on Friday with the van or with the bus. And that's the same afternoon, we're taking middle school volleyball and middle school unified sports. So we're able to utilize it very effectively. So I'm very pleased that we have a system in place for that now. Reminder to families that this Friday is an early dismissal for professional learning. I'll provide the board an update on what the professional learning looks like on Friday. And primarily it's school-based, being led by their principals and guided by the requests that individual teachers have through the PDEC process. Budget process, we're well on our way. We've been meeting with principals last week and again today. We also have IT, special education, central office departments coming up this week. Following that, Howard will do the hard work of putting it all together. And we'll see where our number is. We'll make some hard adjustments and then we'll be prepared to present to the full board come January. But we're well underway for that. And then finally, I got an email late today, early this morning, from our middle school teacher. We have a American band composer, Brian Dalmadge, who is coming to the middle school to work with our students tomorrow. And he said it was a big deal that we were awarded this. So we have students getting a pretty good opportunity there. I just wanted to share and thank Brand for his hard work to make that happen. Just let you know that we have that taking place in school tomorrow.
Middle school. Middle school?
Middle school. And that's my update for you. And I wish all of you and our families a wonderful holiday, this holidays this month, and Happy New Year.
Okay, report of chair. Guess that's me, huh? So, one of the things that I'd like us to think about, doing with our meetings is the first meeting of the month be like our presentations and, awards to students. And I'd like to try and see if we can get our second meeting to kind of be a workshop meeting. So like we workshop policies, we workshop the budget, anything that we want to really just sit down and talk about, do on those second meetings. So we're not here for hours and hours on end. So think about that and we can talk about that again. One of the things that I'm supposed to do is assign your subcommittee work. We do a lot of work in our subcommittees, a ton. Policy, going through and looking through everything, curriculum, all those things. You may not hear us talk about a lot here, but you'll see the subcommittee work. So subcommittees are really important. So for finance, Steve is going to chair with Mike and Vinny. And policy, Nicole will chair with Sue and Vinny. Jen too, sorry. Facilities, Mike will chair with Bobby and myself. Curriculum, I'm gonna stay chair for a little while. I just feel like it's been someplace, it's been kind of something I've really worked hard with. And Steve, Vic, and Shelley. We're gonna keep it at 4 for now. I may back off a little and let you guys do your thing, but it's just something that I'd like to stay very involved in. So we normally do a motion to approve the subcommittees. So does someone want to do a motion?
I make a motion that we
Approve as presented.
approve the subcommittee docket as you just laid it out, Doug.
Anybody have a second?
Yeah, I'd just like to, say I offered to be chair of the curriculum committee so that we work closely together to make that transition.
Great. Yeah.
I'd like to have that noted in something.
There a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. And I would just like to wish you all a very wonderful holiday. Thank you for all your hard work. You have a lot to do. And I look forward to working with all of you. And I would really like to welcome Sue and Bobby to the board. And I look forward to working with both of you moving forward. And that's it for me. Subcommittees. Mike? Facilities, did you have anything?
I don't have anything except great work on getting the HVAC approved. That was a definite collaboration effort as well as parent involvement to apply the right amount of pressure to get that grant process moving forward. For facilities next meeting, I do not have one to date, but I will be in touch with Bob Carr and Dr. Miller to put together something to get it going. So
just so
whatever.
everybody understands, there's a Google Doc that talks about our subcommittee meetings. So the chairs of the committee should go in and put your meeting dates, meet with your committees and decide what days work, and then go in the Google Doc and do it. All right. Curriculum, we'll set a meeting now that we have our committee. Policy, Nicole?
Thank you. So we subscribe to Shipman and Goodwin, who puts out model policies for us to follow. They also, as part of their subscription service, let us know when things need to be updated. So that really is what generates what we need to do as far as policy is concerned. They have put forth 3 policies regarding our computer use in the district. One is employee use, the other is student use, and then also private use of technological devices by students. You have both the policy language and the reg language for you to review. We only need to approve the policy language. The regs are left up to the administration to figure out the language that should go in there. We do 2 reads of every policy. So this is the first read so that you guys have the language. You can take a look at it. Let me know if you have any questions or concerns. as a committee, we decided that we didn't want to just approve these in a vacuum, so we ran it by our technology department to let us know. Let them vet it and let us know if they had any questions or concerns. They were fine with the language as written by Shipman and Goodwin. So this is down for a first read tonight. If you have any questions or concerns, let me know. At the next meeting, hopefully it'll be our second read and we'll vote on it at that time.
Any questions? Thank you, Nicole. Finance, Mike, do you want to handle that one too? You did the last meeting, I think.
Sure. I mean, one of the big
Yeah.
things that came out of the the last finance meeting had to do with the sub pay, and we addressed that tonight. So I appreciate the collaboration and effort. I'm looking forward to Steve adding his leadership ability on the finance subcommittee. So that'll be very nice subcommittee to work with. We are upcoming for the budget season, so there'll be lots of meetings, but they're good meetings, and I think we're in great hands with Steve.
I think just that, thanks, Mayor. For me, going through it, we had 23 grants that we track, and I know like 8 of them just ended, but that's a helpful view that how we're putting together with the deck that which goes to all the board members. So I think that'll be beneficial with our internal communication. And then, yeah, budget's going to take a long time and effort, obviously. The other thing we discussed was the potential of moving to more of an electronic payment system that checks, but with that comes a lot of due diligence on compliance, governance, right? So we took it as a go check into it a little bit more, but as of right now, no action.
So the other day when the town had no one to sign their check, kind of caused a little bit of a delay in getting checks signed. Because Dana hadn't been signed on the dotted line to be able to sign check. But Mr. Haliva was very specific that it needed to be a signature. So I think we need to have that discussion with the town as well.
Yeah. That's part of the due diligence.
Because you're talking about the thing I noted down here is on the signing of the checks. Okay. I think we're deciding where it's gotta be 2 people signing the page.
It has to be one from us and one from the town.
Okay. So, because there's something about generating signature or something, I don't really understand, it's gotta be, and those 2 people be kind of like what we did in the past. Reviewing the checks.
For now, yeah, we have to talk to the town and see if there's anything.
Because that was very effective, we caught a lot of little nuances, let's call them. And I think it's important that we do that and control our budget. Because, we're adding, you just added $238,000 if we do that. 138 and all that kind of stuff. So I think watching the budget and watching the checks and, I don't think the paper supply problem has gone away. I don't have this, I don't have that, and they sneak in there through Amazon and stuff like that. So I think, a credible job last year of tracking all that stuff, but anything it needs 2 people there with knowledge of what happens. So, okay, it's just a point I wanted to clear to myself that we're going to do that.
For now, yep. Okay, anything else on finance? Liaison report, just I have a PTO report that their next meeting is in January. They're working on the booster fund, is that what it's called?
Yes.
So they're working on that, they started working on that.
I know that they met with the Booster Fund people, with the principals last Friday.
Yeah.
To start planning for it.
And that's the only liaison report we have. We do have usually someone from Oasis. That was what Mrs. Miller did in the past, if anybody is interested in doing that liaison. And then
I've been attending the booster meetings. I was not able to go to the last meeting. Unfortunately, I was at other town meetings at the same time. But I have been attending their meetings.
I could help out with that.
Sure,
Be a
that'd be
liaison.
great.
I'm there anyways.
So you can come back and give us a report at the board meetings, what's going on, and that'd be great, thank you so much. Anybody else, anything on the liaison? So motion to adjourn,
Second.
all in favor? Opposed? Abstain. Motion carries. We're adjourned at 7:30.